Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Respected and learned faculty watching this video, Assalamu alaikum and very good morning. According to our course curriculum of a student concluding seminar, all of us were given with a topic to prepare a seminar paper. Today, I, Julas Faisal, appearing before you to give a presentation on my seminar paper, that is Port Efficiency and Supply Chain Implication, Bangladesh Perspective. Introduction. Ports are known as integral part of freight transportation since they play an important role in the development and prosperity of a country. The world economy is directly depending on the maritime transportation, and port is the integral part of facilitating the shipping lines. About 75% of the value and 90% of volume of world trade is carried by ships using port as the ultimate gateway. A seaport is considered as the compulsory transit point for international trade, and it permits the important import and export of goods. Moreover, a port is a place for the provision of further service adding value to the goods transported and thus helps the increasing demand of the trade. The port of Chittagong is the major seaport of Bangladesh. Country's 90% of the cargoes export and import are done through this port. A number of reports over recent years have highlighted the problems in Chittagong port, like slow vessel turnaround time, high dwell time of containers, low labor productivity, restrictive practice and corruption, negligence, poor onward connection, etc. When both direct and indirect costs are considered, all of these add up to the poor service for customers at high costs. Port and supply chain are strongly related to each other since the port is considered as the important point of the global supply chain. So port efficiency level has an effect on the performance of supply chain operations. The objective of the study, an effort has been taken to examine the efficiency of Chittagong port and the causal factors of inefficiency. The impact of inefficiency at Chittagong port on the supply chain of Bangladesh has also been identified. To do this, at first, a relationship has been built between port efficiency and supply chain in respect of Bangladesh. The research is mostly based on secondary source of information for the secondary data, literature related to the topic from different database, website, and other valuable sources were collected. A systematic review of the collected literature was done in detail. Here you can see the scope under which the presentation will be unfolded. Now to start with port and supply chain relationship. Port, supply chain, and logistics are working together for the important part of the world trade. Core activities of the port is loading and unloading of goods, which are vital to international trade and transport of goods. Port activity represents a comparatively big share in the total chain cost. Port activity is increasingly required in order to fit rightly into the logistic chain, of which seaports are an integral part. Inefficient at ports are preventing a match between port and their logistics chains. It speaks for itself that congestion will have a detrimental impact on the generalized cost on the overall transport or throughput performance. In port, the supply chain starts from the arrival of ship from import cargo and arrival of cargo for export. During export, cargo entered into port and stored in warehouse and waiting for ship and is loaded to ship. For import, cargo is unloaded from ship and stored at warehouse for distribution. The supply chain efficiency in the port system is efficiency achieved across the total port supply chain. For better understanding, a port supply chain model is shown on the screen. The total process goes through chain and supply cargo from one place to another place. Their cargo owner, freight forwarder, and shipping line are the customer of port. Port provides service towards the customer The service includes ship berthing and cargo handling and storage. Port performance and supply chain. Issues involved in port performance. There are many issues involved in the performance of port and global supply chain. These are a range of logistic services, time taken in port in operation, utilization of provided equipment, stacking and handling practices, training activity, container handling equipments, truck management, volume of cargo, skilled manpower, chain of command, efficient customs operation, performance of CNF agent working within the port, inland distribution facility, efficiency of berth operator, reliability of vessel operator, and permitted capacity of vessel within a port. When a port lacks any of these, it will result in poor performance or inefficiency and raise the cost and time of export and import. Ultimately, the supply chain becomes disrupted. Now we can see the supply chain drivers in port performance. In a total port system supply chain of the present day that takes into congruence of the 6 different aspects of the total logistic and functional drivers in the port supply chain. These drivers reveal from about the science of managing an efficient port system. The drivers of supply chain performance are the logistic and cross-functional drivers. These are logistical drivers are mainly facilities, inventory, and transportation. And cross-functional drivers are information, sourcing, and pricing. Now you can see the supply chain drivers in Chittagong Port. Here we can see the cross-functional drivers are information, sourcing, and pricing, as we have said before, and the logistics drivers, inventory, where the port handles the bulk, break bulk cargo, liquid bulk, solid bulk, deposit cargo, and container. And for transportation, they have rail communication, road communication, and inland waterways. And the facilities they provide, that is, they have dry port, free port, and warehouses. If we analyze the efficiency of Chittagong Port, in that case, we can see Chittagong Port is the prime gateway of Bangladesh needed to provide essential service to exporter and importer. Port operational efficiency is measured by provided logistic support to customer, service time, and ship turnaround time, dwell time of containers, berth occupancy, equipment availability, and utilization. The slow operational procedure, inadequate facilities, and excessive charges have made Chittagong Port inefficient. Efficiency of Chittagong Port is analyzed on the following grounds: the logistic services, ship turnaround time, service time, berth occupancy, waiting time, equipment availability, berth utilization and output, ship output, customs integration with port. Following are the factors which are affecting the efficiency of Chittagong Port. Those are mainly container handling equipment, truck management, skilled manpower, customs operation, and a strike of outside stakeholders. Findings and challenges against port performance. First, we see the findings. Port time for other cargo vessel is more than container vessel handling. Existing container yard facility is not sufficient for increasing trade. Port documentation process is time-consuming. Traditional method of cargo checking is carried out by port customs during stuffing and unstuffing. Berthing facility is not sufficient for vessel calling Chittagong Port. Road transportation is getting preference than rail and inland water transport modes. Challenges against port performance. Challenges against port performance, though supply chain integration in Chittagong Port include inadequate cargo handling facility, inadequate container yard capacity, lengthy documentation process, manual cargo checking, no pre-book berthing, road preferred hinterland connectivity. The recommendations. The Chittagong Port is the tool port and second generation port. The port has so many deficiency in different sections like the information technology section that result high berth waiting time, lengthy dwell time, insufficient container yard, container congestion, etc. Focusing on the all previous discussion, the following recommendation suggestions in respect of port performance and supply chain are as follows. A transition to a landed port model is recommended that CPS should be transformed into a landlord port as early as possible. The customs documents and procedures should be simplified and integration of custom with port is needed. The port authority should go for immediate action to implement. For port hinterland connectivity by road, rail, and inland waterways, with port should develop in such a manner so that it increases the port efficiency, minimizing the cargo dwelling time. The number of private port terminal operators should be increased and create intra-port terminal competition. Finally, Chittagong Port is the most important part in Bangladesh trade and commerce. Country's economy is highly depends on it. With the increasing growth of GDP, the number of vessels at Chittagong Port is also growing. In this time, Chittagong Port should achieve sufficient competitive strength to cope with the present and future demand. It is found that Bangladesh exports could earn about 30% more if port efficiencies were removed. Port inefficiencies each year cost the country close to what the garment sector earns. Due to delay in Chittagong Port, garment exporters sometimes tend to use the expensive air shipments to maintain the strict lead time of buyers, and delays in Chittagong Port have been costing them abnormally at the time when profitability declined a lot and production cost rose. On the other hand, because of the delayed cargo unloading at Chittagong Port, importers incur about 12 billion taka in losses every year, allowing our port to be operated in an inefficient and unsafe manner, increasing the freight rates both for exports and imports, and ultimately the poor consumers of our country bears the burden of increased freight rate. Thank you, faculties and learned persons, for your patience hearing. Thank you, sir.